Alex never thought he'd return to the small town in Colorado, where winters cut to the bone and everyone knew the neighbor's dog by name. But when the call came from the hospital, he didn't hesitate. His mother, Marie, had just suffered a stroke. A part of her brain was damaged, leaving her nearly unable to speak, walk, or care for herself. Less than 12 hours after the call, Alex had left his high-rise office in New York and arrived at the local rehab center. He took his mother's hand, the same hand that used to hold his whenever they crossed icy streets when he was little. Her hand was dry and frail now, but the faint squeeze still made his heart ache. 10 years in New York had given Alex the life he once dreamed of, a 6-figure salary, a 32nd floor apartment, overpriced coffee, and international business trips. But amid all that success, memories of his mother had never faded. Whenever stress closed in, he'd think of those quiet afternoons by the window of their old house, where she taught him his first math problems, or the phrase she said at every meal. First you, then me. It wasn't just something she said, it was how she lived. Even as an elementary school teacher on a modest income, Marie always put her son first, from the smallest birthday cake to the last warm coat in a long winter. She raised Alex on her own, always smiling no matter how exhausted she was. Now that she couldn't stand on her own, Alex knew it was his turn to say, "First you, then me." He put his job on hold, moved back into the old house, hired a part-time nurse, taught himself how to cook low-sodium meals, and began the recovery journey with his mom. Neighbors were surprised, friends worried, colleagues thought he was throwing away a huge opportunity. But for Alex, something deeper was calling him back. Not duty, but pure love, the kind that doesn't ask for anything in return. What puzzled people wasn't just what he did, but why he did it. Why would a man living his dream choose to go back to a place that held nothing but an old house and a nearly paralyzed mother? The answer wasn't entirely clear. But for Alex, it began with gratitude and a belief that sometimes, going back isn't a step backward at all, but the greatest step forward a person can take. On his first night back at the old house, Alex sat alone on the faded wooden steps. The home was quiet now. The only sound was the soft hiss of the oxygen machine coming from his mother's bedroom. He looked out at the small yard that had once been his playground, where he and his mom planted carrots, flew kites, and sometimes just sat together in silence. Under the starlit sky, memories stirred like an old film in slow motion. His mother had never once complained about the absence of a father or the teacher's paycheck that couldn't cover a broken heater. Instead, she taught him how to make toast from stale bread, read fairy tales to lull him to sleep, and tucked little notes of encouragement into his lunchbox each morning. The one he saw most often? "You go first, always." There was a winter when Alex was 8, he had come down with a high fever. Even while coughing herself, his mother managed to cook soup and carry him to the clinic. When they got back, the two curled up under a thin blanket, and he remembered clearly the look in her eyes when she said, "As long as you're okay, I'm okay." Years later, when Alex landed his first job in the city, she was the one who packed his bags, folding each shirt with trembling hands, slipping one last note into his duffel bag. "Wherever you go, don't forget where you started." Now, as she lay motionless in the room at the end of the hall, those memories weren't just nostalgia, they were purpose. A bond too deep to sever. Each morning, Alex helped her change clothes, repositioned her to prevent bed sores, massaged her limbs to keep the blood flowing. Small, unglamorous tasks, but to him, they were wordless thank yous. One afternoon, while drying her hair after a physical therapy session, her hand suddenly found his, not tightly, but enough to stop him in his tracks. Her eyes met his, cloudy and quiet, but deep inside, there was recognition. A single tear slipped down her cheek. No words were spoken, but Alex understood. She remembered him, and she knew he was there. The love between a mother and son doesn't need grand gestures. It lives quietly, like the steady warmth of an old wood stove, like the scent of morning tea she used to brew. For Alex, every act he did wasn't just part of her healing, it was his way of giving back, piece by piece, to the woman who had once placed him above everything else in her life. 2 months after returning home, Alex's life had settled into a strange rhythm. Mornings began with checking his mother's blood pressure, followed by simple yet nutritious lunches, hours-long physical therapy sessions, and quiet nights spent hunched over his old laptop, trying to work remotely and stay tethered to the fast-paced tech world he once belonged to. One evening, as he was clearing through a backlog of emails, a message popped up from his former boss in New York. "We're opening a new branch in San Francisco. CTO position, nearly double the pay. If you come back now, it's yours." His heart stalled. This was the job he'd once dreamed of. A milestone that could redefine his career. For a brief moment, he pictured himself striding into a glass-walled office, leading a team of engineers, landing big contracts, and reclaiming the life people called worth living. Then, he glanced over at the bedroom where a warm nightlight cast a glow across his mother's face, thinner than before, but peaceful. That whole night, he tossed and turned. He couldn't lie to himself. A part of him longed to return to the world he'd left behind, to be challenged again, to be recognized. But then he thought, what's the point of success if the person who means the most isn't there to see it? Who would walk her through the garden? Who would rub her legs when they seized in the night? Who would whisper, "I'm here, it's okay," when she panicked in confusion? The next morning, Alex replied, "Thank you. I truly appreciate the offer, but I can't leave right now. Someone needs me more than ever." His boss messaged back a few minutes later, "I understand. Honestly, I admire you. Maybe this is a kind of success too, just one the world doesn't quite know how to name yet." From that day on, Alex cleared out his work corner. He stopped juggling remote projects and gave all his time to his mother. Friends called, urging him not to give up so much. Some asked bluntly, "Aren't you afraid you're throwing your life away for a few years of caregiving?" Alex just smiled softly. "I'm not throwing anything away," he said. "I'm living the most meaningful part of my life right now." No one truly understood his choice, and Alex didn't need them to. He knew that the most important things in life weren't written in contracts or reflected in bank accounts. They lived in the moments you chose to stay when someone needed you the most. In the weeks that followed, life moved in a rhythm of precise repetition and quiet patience. Alex memorized everything: injection schedules, medication times, joint mobility exercises, until he could do it all in the dark. At first, there were signs of progress. His mother's trembling hand began to grip his more firmly. Her dull eyes occasionally flickered with recognition. Even the smallest signs sparked hope in Alex. But then, things plateaued, even regressed. One morning, as he helped her sit up, she suddenly seized and collapsed into his arms like a tree breaking at the trunk. The local hospital diagnosed a minor cerebral ischemia, not life-threatening, but a harsh reminder that no matter how hard he tried, Alex couldn't control everything. He sat beside her hospital bed, staring at the frail hand that no longer responded to his touch. Again, he felt helpless. Weeks of sacrifice, of effort, of pouring everything into her care, yet her condition remained as fragile as a drop of dew about to fall from a leaf. The pressure built in sleepless nights. Doubt crept in. Was I right to do this? Is it worth it? Am I helping, or just losing myself? His friends had moved on to promotions, marriages, world travels, and here he was, reliving the same day over and over with someone who no longer even knew his name. And then, in that darkness, a memory of his mother's voice rose in him. Patience is how we love someone when they can't love us back just yet. One late autumn morning, while making tea, he heard a noise from her room. Rushing in, worried something was wrong, he found her struggling slowly, weakly, to reach for the hand towel beside her. She didn't succeed, but the effort itself, so small, so fragile, brought Alex to tears. He realized then, progress wasn't always about dramatic recovery. Sometimes, it was about tiny, flickering moments of life inside the stillness. He began to shift his perspective. He stopped counting every movement, stopped waiting for daily miracles. Instead, he chose to simply be there, fully present, with no expectations. Then one day, while helping her practice speech sounds, she suddenly whispered, barely audible, but unmistakable, one word. "Son." Alex froze. It wasn't just a sound. It was sunlight breaking through a wall of clouds. A sign that she was still in there. Still fighting with him. The road ahead was still long, still uncertain. But Alex finally understood. True love doesn't hope for someone to get better quickly. It chooses to stay even when everything seems unchanged. And in that, he found the greatest miracle of all. That spring, the snow melted late, but the sun was finally warm enough for Alex to open the windows each morning, letting light spill into his mother's room. A soft breeze drifted in, carrying the scent of wild grass and damp earth, the same scent his mother used to call the smell of life beginning again. Ever since the day she whispered the word son, something fragile yet fierce had begun to awaken in her. Every day, she pushed a little further, a small twitch of her fingers, a slight turn of her head, a slow, delicate smile. The nurse offered no promises, but Alex no longer needed certainty. He had learned how to live in the small moments and to cherish each slow, steady step forward. One afternoon, with sunlight stretching across the porch, Alex wheeled his mother out to the backyard. The wildflower garden she once tended had nearly faded, with just a few scattered green patches left. But as she reached out and brushed her fingers against a leaf, something extraordinary happened. She smiled, her first real smile in months. "You remember," she said softly, voice weak but clear, "we used to plant lavender in that corner." Alex's throat tightened. He nodded. "You liked the smell right before it rained." She looked at him, eyes glassy with emotion, then whispered, "Thank you for staying." It was the first full sentence she had spoken since the stroke. No grand drama, no background music, just a simple phrase, light as breath, yet powerful enough to break Alex's heart wide open. From that moment, her recovery continued, not fast, not complete, but enough. Enough for mother and son to speak again. To share breakfast. To walk slowly through the garden every afternoon. Those small things, once ordinary, now felt like treasures. His friends began to understand. One former colleague wrote in an email, "I envy the peace you have. It feels like you're actually living, and the rest of us are just running." Alex smiled. Yes, he had given up a major opportunity, but in return, he had found something no career could replace: family, presence, and meaning. By summer, when his mother was strong enough to take a few careful steps, Alex cooked dinner and set 2 plates on the table. He invited her to sit, then gently placed her portion in front of her first. She looked at him with a soft, knowing gaze and said, "First me, then you?" He laughed, eyes bright. "Always, Mom. Always."